Back to our series of webinars. Please just allow one more minute while other attendees are being connected to the webinar. We are right now at almost 600. And let me tell you that we had an impressive response to today's webinar, and we saw close to 2,000 participants sign up for this topic. So thank you very much for your great interest. And just a heads up, we are not sure if the platform will allow all attendees to participate today, but the webinar will be recorded and made available as soon as possible, potentially today, if not beginning of next week. So thank you again for joining us on this sunny morning, and let's just give everyone else a few more seconds to join. We're close to 800 now, and in the meantime, you can actually sign up for the next webinar, which is planned for Wednesday next week. It's on March 5th, and it begins at 9:30 a.m. It will last 3 hours, so 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And perhaps we can share a registration link in the chat. There you go. Thank you so much, Sophia. And as always, tickets to our webinars are free. So please take a second, register for the next webinar. And let me see how many people we have. I think we're good. So we can start the webinar. Hello, everyone. Again, good morning, and welcome back to our new webinar series, co-hosted by the Department of Buildings and ASHRAE New York City. We have a lot of material to cover today, so I'll try to be very brief. As you may know, the Department of Buildings has been working closely with the ASHRAE New York City chapter to deliver a series of webinars in order to share important information on the basics of Local Law 97 and 88. And this is the first event in this second series of webinars, which we will be hosting virtually over the course of the next few weeks. So the schedule is already published on our website, and you can check the dates on the event calendar on ashraeny.org by accessing the calendar or the event page. And both ASHRAE and the DOB will be sending announcements and email reminders. So please stay tuned for future announcements, but just a reminder, the list is already published. The registration will open probably next week for the remainder of the events, and the next webinar on Wednesday, you can register for that webinar through the link shared in the chat. And before we dive in, let's quickly go over a few housekeeping items. This webinar will last approximately 2 hours, and just like I said before, the recording will be available after the session for future viewing, and we will post the webinar recording along with the presentations on both the ASHRAE New York City and DOB websites. And by the way, all presentations and video recordings from our first edition of webinars are also available, and everyone interested is able to access them online. We will also share the link in a few minutes so that you can access all those webinars from the first season. You can also access the recordings by going to ashraeny.org and clicking on the events and then selecting DOB Sustainability Series. Next, everyone except for the speakers is in listening mode only. So we would like to encourage everyone to ask questions in the chat window. You can locate the control panel on your screen and locate the chat section where you can submit your questions. And during the webinar, the DOB team will be glad to answer any questions. And if time permits, we will also try to conduct a brief Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If your questions weren't answered, or if the chat function doesn't work for you, please email your questions to the email address posted in the chat, which is beam_ll97@buildings.nyc.gov or education@ashray.ny.org. And you should now be able to see those emails in a second. So please feel free to reach out. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be also sharing a presentation evaluation survey. So please feel free to let us know if you have any comments and share your feedback. And okay, we're close to the 1,000 attendees right now, and I think these are all the housekeeping items for now. So just a reminder, the recording will be shared after this session, so everyone who missed it will be able to also watch it on their own schedule. So our speakers will give us an overview of the Local Law 97 reporting process today, and I would like to welcome our speakers. Emily Hoffman is currently serving as the Director of the Director of the Office of Building, Energy and Emissions Performance and the New York City Department of Buildings. Laura Popa is Deputy Commissioner of Sustainability at the Department of Buildings. Drupati Kalu is the Deputy Director of Sustainability Implementation and Program Management in the Office of Building, Energy and Emissions Performance and the New York City Department of Buildings. Lydia Shapiro is a Senior Building, Energy and Emissions Auditor at the DOB Office of Building, Energy and Emissions Performance. Moton Wenyu is a Senior Building, Energy and Emissions Auditor at New York City Department of Buildings. And two more, we have Thomas Carpenito, who is a Project Manager at the Department of Buildings Office of Buildings, Energy and Emissions Performance. And Sydney Abraham is a Senior Energy and Climate Analyst at Clearly Energy. All right. That's all on my end. Laura goes first, so thank you so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Luke, and many thanks to ASHRAE for hosting us. I just want to take 1 minute to welcome everyone to the first session of DOB's webinar series on the Local Law 97 reporting process. We'll be holding several webinars, as Luke said, over the weeks. The upcoming weeks, they're going to be recorded and put online. We're very, very excited that the reporting portal is opening on Monday. We thank all of the service providers who helped us beta test the portal. Your feedback was invaluable, and we want to continue to hear from you in order to improve the user experience. So we'll be reaching out again in the coming weeks for more feedback. This is a new process, but it's been years in the making, and it's a privilege for me to lead the truly talented sustainability team at DOB who made all of this happen. I cannot overstate their dedication and work ethic. You will be hearing from the team today, and as they guide you through the process of how to report Local Law 97 compliance. My heartfelt thanks to them, and especially to OB's fearless leader, Emily Hoffman, who I'm going to pass the baton to now. So Emily, take it away.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, ASHRAE, for hosting us. I also want to personally give a shout out to my team who has been dedicated in getting this up and going, and we're ready to get the industry reporting for Local Law 97. I also want to give a personal shout out to all of the beta testers who engaged with us over the last 3 months. We have made tremendous strides, and we're really excited to show the platform today to the industry. And next slide, please. All right, so the way we're structuring our presentation today is I will be giving an overview of the portal. The portal comprises of 3 systems. It is DOB Now Payment Portal, EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and BEAM. So we'll have Thomas Carpenito walking through the DOB Now Payment Portal. We'll have Lydia Shapiro walking through the new setup required for EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager portal. And then we'll have Drew Patty Kalu, Mountain Wenu, Sydney Abraham, and myself giving a live demo of the functionality of the BEAM system. The goal after today is to get most of you started in reporting for Local Law 97. Next slide. This slide shows our timeline for reporting. So starting today, you will be able to start paying your DOB Now filing fees, setting up your ESPM account, and BEAM will open for Local Law 97 reporting and Local Law 88 reporting on Monday. That starts our general reporting period. As you all know, the deadline to report is May 1st. However, many of you may not be aware that we do have a grace period for reporting. So essentially what that means is everyone has until June 30th to submit their Local Law 97 report within the BEAM platform. You also have, within that same time frame, so starting Monday until June 30th, to file for an extension request. Anyone can file for the extension request. We're going to give a live demo today on what type of information is required for that extension request. And once you submit that extension request, you have until August 29th to get your reports in. So between now and August 29th, that's effectively 6 months to be able to, file your 97 report. As you'll see, there are 3 platforms. So we'll walk you through the steps that need to be completed. We're going to be reiterating key points over and over. We're going to kind of sound like a broken record on a couple of topics, including specific email accounts that will create your BEAM account. And we'll just be hitting home on that. So as Laura mentioned, today is just the kickoff meeting. So today, really, like I said, the goal is to get you started in reporting. And then over the month of March, we are having additional 2-hour webinars to do deep dive into specific types of reporting. So we'll have one next Friday on how to file Article 321 compliance reports, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty details on that specifically. And then the following Tuesday, we'll do the Article 320 reports and get into nitty-gritty details then. So this is only the start of our month-long webinar series. We want to hear from you. This is, this law is first of its kind. We're really proud of all the work we've done to get this portal up and live. And there will be room for improvement. We are all here. We've been hiring additional staff. We have a robust team here that is ready to work with service providers, make sure that everyone knows clearly how to submit, answer questions you have, provide guidance. We're all here for that. And this team is ready to be agile and provide guidance needed. So that is our goal, and that is what we're trying to accomplish starting today. Next slide, please. All right, so I mentioned the three portals. You're going to see this slide over and over again. because we want everyone to be aware. You know, it can get tricky with 3 different portals. We want to make this process as straightforward as possible. There's a particular order that you must go in to be able to log into the Beam platform. First, you need to go into DOB Now and pay your filing fee for your filing, for your specific bin or your combined report. It's critical that when you're in DOB Now, the 3 email addresses that you are entering for that particular filing for that building or grouping of buildings is representative of the owner's rep, and service provider. So there are 3 email fields. These are the only email accounts associated with that building that will be able to see that building's info in the Beam platform. So just make sure you're aware of that. You will not be able to log into Beam without using one of these 3 email addresses that you indicate in the DOB Now filing fee platform. Next, you have to go to ESPM, and we're starting a brand new, we're changing the way that we do the benchmarking reporting. Lydia is going to go into details on this particular topic. But we're going with a shared approach where you have to share your information with New York City's ESPM account. So that means we see your utility data, your building's profile data, and then that data is brought over to Beam. And the critical information in ESPM is, again, using an email that is associated with DOB Now, but also making sure that the BBL and bin are identified in your building's ESPM account. That is how the data transfers from ESPM to Beam. You also see on this slide that data transfers nightly from DOB Now and ESPM. So the data from DOB Now will go into Beam nightly. The data from ESPM will also go into Beam nightly. So that means starting today, if you wanted to complete a 97 report, or assume Beam is open, you would not be able to do so. You cannot complete a report in one day, and you need to plan for that. So we want to make sure you're all aware of how this works. Once you do these 2 prerequisites, pay in DOB Now, set up your ESPM, you get into Beam, you submit your report. We see all the information as New York City, and we have a staff review process. And all the communication will happen within the Beam platform. Next slide, please. It's a very similar process with Local Law 88. As far as, you know, to file for 88, you first have to go to DOB Now, pay your filing fee. If you have a 97 report that you're filing this year, you do not pay a filing fee. But you do need to go in DOB Now and pay the 97 filing fee, have the owner's rep, service provider email addresses. Then you can log into Beam, submit your 88 report in Beam. We're going to show you what those reports look like today. We'll do a demo of that. And then we get those reports as a staff review process. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it over to the team. Thomas Carpenito, our project manager, is going to, you can go to next slide, please, is going to walk us through the DOB Now Safety Local Law 97 and Local Law 88 payment portal. All right, Thomas.
Thanks, Emily. All right. Yep. So we're doing the, like Emily said, the DOB Now Safety Local Law 97 and Local Law 88 payment portal. So next slide. Right. So like Emily said, we'll be repeating this over and over again. The covered buildings list and ESPM data will not populate into your ESPM or your Beam account unless you use one of these 3 emails in the DOB Now filing fee. So you must input all 3. You need to have email addresses entered for your owner, owner's rep, and service provider. You will be able to, anyone is able to create a Beam account, but you will not have access to that that data, like I said, unless you use one of these 3 in the filing fee. Right, so as well, to repeat, this information, the payment confirmation number, as well as all the information about these emails which allow your data to be linked, is transferred to Beam on a nightly basis. So you're unable to make a Beam report in one day. This is a multi-day process due to the data transfer. So next slide. So if you don't have a DOB Now account or a New York City ID, you'll have to create one. You could do this by going to nyc.gov/DOB Now and clicking on the Create Account button on the right side. If you already have one, all you have to do is just log in. We're going to not walk you through the account creation steps. We're just going to jump right into it. So you'll log in. So next slide. Yep, so some things we recommend for DOB Now, the standard protocol is to use Google Chrome. It's just for optimal performance. Other things, when you're submitting your filing fee, you have to enter all information for fields that have a red asterisk. Those are mandatory. All fields that are grayed out, like the email here and the first name, those will be auto-populated based on the information you used when you created your NYC ID. So if you input your email and name when you create your NYC ID, those are auto-populate when you put that information in. Also, depending on the size of your screen, you might have to use the scroll bar on the bottom in order to see some hidden information. Next slide. Right. So when you log in and after you create an account or you just log in, you'll be greeted with the DOB Now self-service portal main page. To get to our filing fee payments, you'll select DOB Now Safety, go to Energy, and then go to Local Law 97 and 88 filing fee payments. Next slide. Right, like I said, you could submit both just at different times. So those will be on the top. But also just noting that for the Local Law 88 fee, you do not need to submit it if you have a report, a Local Law 97 report due in 2025. The fee for Local Law 88 is already covered in that. So we'll be going through in the later slides how to submit a Local Law 88 payment when you don't have a 97 report due in 2025. For the next few slides, we'll just be assuming you click Local Law 97 payments. So next slide. Right, so here's the page that we keep referencing. The stakeholder section is where you will submit all 3 emails needed to populate your data into your Beam account. Right here, the owner's rep, and the service provider. Also noting that the owner or owner's rep that is submitting the filing fee, all sections here that are grayed out will auto-populate. And then you could switch between either owner or owner's rep to submit the other information needed there. So next slide. Right, so this is a diagram we made just noting for the 3 emails. The emails that you provide will only have access to information related to the bin in which you are submitting your filing fee for. Right, if you have multiple reports with different service providers, they will only have access to the bins associated in this fee here. So for this example, in bins 1 and 2, the only email that will have access to both are the ones that have the same owner's rep. So owner's rep B. So next slide. Also in the stakeholder section is the owner's type dropdown. So from there you could select either individual, different types of owner's types. The one that we're going to be focusing on is the fee exempt. So there's a variety of fee exempt owner's types that you could select. The only difference is you still have to submit this filing fee, but you won't be charged for it at the end. All right, so next slide. Right, so like I said, we're gonna assume you, for the next few slides, assume you select Local Law 97 payment. So you could select either Article 320 or Article 321. In order to get to the extension request or adjustment applications, you have to select no in the previous questions. So it's a dynamic form. We'll show you in the next slides. Yeah, so next slide. So here you can see that those questions aren't shown because we selected yes. I want to submit a filing, I want to file a compliance report for Article 320, and then I selected my report year, which is 2024. If you do that, you'll get 3 options here. Annual Buildings Emission Report, which is the standard report. You could do good faith efforts, and you could also do unexpected or unforeseeable event. And those are for cases like fire or flood. Next slide. If you select Article 321, you will be, and as well write yes and do the report year. You'll be greeted with 4 different options. You could do the standard compliance report for Article 321 as either a energy compliant building or a PECM. You could do a mediated resolution. You could do unexpected or unforeseen event, as in the case for fire or flood, as said before, or you could do an eligible energy conservation alteration project. The next slide. So we'll go through the Local Law 88 payment. All the fields really in both the 97 payment, like the stakeholder section, and other adding your bins are going to be very, very similar between the two portals here. The only difference is going to be the next slide, as well noting again that the Local Law 88 payment only needs to be submitted if there's no report for 97 due in 2025. So next slide. So here are the only 2 questions you need to answer that are different than the 97 report. You'll select yes, I want to file a report for Local Law 88 compliance in the reporting portal. And no, I don't have a compliance report required to be submitted in 2025. So next slide. Right, so this will be the same for 97 and 88. You will select the borough block and lot number and input that for your property. You could search and it'll greet you with all the bins associated with that BBL. You could select the bins that are pertinent to your report. You could add multiple bins. So next slide. Right, so they'll populate like this icon at the top, and you also have the ability to delete any that you may accidentally add. The next question will be, please confirm that your bin has either a single owner or the property is a co-op or condo. Then you have the ability to add any related payment confirmation numbers that may have been processed in the past. Next slide. So like I said, for fee exempt buildings, all you have to do is just submit. There's no payment information needed. If you are not fee exempt, you must click proceed to pay. And an icon like this will pop up with the amount. And you click pay now. You upload all pertinent payment information like credit card or e-check. So next slide. Once all that information has been uploaded and the payment has been processed, you will get a payment confirmation number. This number is very, very important because this will allow you to submit your report in Beam. You will upload this to your report. You also receive things like your receipt number and your invoice number. Next slide. The payment information will also appear in your portal, whether it's Local Law 97 or Local Law 88, and your payment confirmation will be displayed there, as the transaction status will also be submitted and paid. And then that's the end of the filing fees for DOB Now. So next slide. I'll give it back over to Emily.
All right, thank you, Thomas, for walking us through that. So Thomas gave a great overview of what's required in the DOB Now filing fee system. All of you can begin now and start to pay your filing fees. You can get the process started. That payment portal is open. If you have questions, please, email us. We can provide as much information as necessary. Remember, once you pay your filing fee, that data transfers nightly over to Beam. So, you can't just go in, pay your filing fee now, and then log into Beam and have your data there. That won't work. Again, just reiterating, we're going to say this over and over again, only the 3 email addresses that are entered in the DOB Now filing fee payment system will be allowed access in Beam. And I apologize, we're having a fire drill now, it seems. Okay, we're back on. False alarm there. Okay, so yes, so enter those 3 email addresses, and that is the steps to complete the first one of the payment portal, or sorry, the first one of our portals, including the payment system. All right, I am going to pass it over next to Lydia Shapiro to walk us through the changes in EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager platform. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everybody. So at this point, you already went to the DOB Now payment portal and made your fees payments for Local Law 97 and Local Law 88 compliance. Next slide, please. We want to emphasize there are 2 major changes to the benchmarking this year. One, there will be no reporting template going forward. All the information from the ESPM will be transferred to Beam via data sharing. We will cover that in this presentation. The second major change is we are applying strict formatting to BBL and BIN numbers reported through ESPM. So the BBL and BIN numbers is crucial information required for Local Law 97 reporting. You start by going to the covered buildings list, search for your BBL. You need to report that BBL in ESPM in exact same format as it appears on the covered buildings list, which is 10-digit format without any symbols. The first digit covers the borough, the next 5 cover the block number, and the last 4 cover the lot number. If your block or lot shorter than the required format, you add leading zeros. We have an example here for the property located in Queens. The borough number associated with Queens is 4. Block number in our example is 234. To make it 5-digit format, we add 2 zeros in front. And the lot number is 56. We add 2 zeros to make it 4 digits. The correct format is shown as 400-234-0056. Please make sure to update all your benchmarking information with BBL and BIN numbers accordingly. If you report campuses, on the parent level, you list all the BBL numbers associated with the campus, separated by semicolon. The BIN number is entered in the standard ID other section of Portfolio Manager account. Make sure you enter accurate BIN number because the Local Law 97 reporting is on the building level. Same principle as the BBL in the campus settings. When you list all the bins in the parent property profile, separate them by semicolon. Next slide, please. So this slide shows all the critical information related to the ESPM and data sharing. We already covered the first 2, the standard IDs and property sharing. If you have the ESPM Portfolio Manager account, please make sure you check every single property you report and update the standard IDs for both BBL and BIN number. all the benchmarking requirements for local law 84 remain the same. When you break down the property use, you need to do it according to local law 84 in the ESPM. If you need to break down the property uses to the more granular level for the local law 97 reporting, you will have an option to do that in BIM portal. Make sure the email address in your ESPM account is the building owner's email address. If the owner's representative or service provider does the reporting for the owner can grant full access for the same sharing principle that we are going to go over today to the service provider, so they can complete the benchmarking for the any given property. ESPM data we already mentioned today is pulled to BIM on a nightly basis. Make sure, because there are 3 portals involved and there's a lot of information you need to report and check, please make sure you start ahead of time. Give yourself enough time to go over the information you report and make any necessary changes. Next slide, please. So how do you share your property with the BIM? On the upper right corner of your ESPM portal, you will see contacts button. You click on that button and you click on add new contacts connections. You enter NYC GOV LL84 as a username and search. Once you find it, click connect. Once your connection request is accepted, you will receive an email with the subject account share accepted. You will also be notified about accepted share request through the notification button on the upper right corner of your ESPM portal. We are showing that screenshot here for you to know exactly where to check. Can you please go to the next slide? Just because you send the connection request does not mean you're done with the sharing. Once the share request is accepted, you need to actually include the properties that you would like to share with the city. You go to Sharing tab on the Portfolio Manager menu ribbon. Click Share or Edit Access to a property. Next slide. Click Select Properties button, and you will see the pop-up window with list of all the properties associated with that particular user. You check the properties shown on the button screenshot on the left. You check all the properties that you would like to share with the city and click Apply Selection. Please keep in mind, if you share the campus, you need to share all the properties associated with the campus, including all the child properties and the parent property. Next slide, please. Under Select People Accounts, you click City of New York as a recipient. Under Choose Permissions, you select Personalized Sharing and Exchange Data Custom Orders and click Continue. Next slide. So once you do that, you will see other other fields that you need to fill up. In the Sharing tab, select Read-Only Access and Exchange Data for each property. A pop-up window will appear. On that new window, you will select Read-Only Access for property information and meter information. You will select None for goals, improvements, and checklist and recognition. You will select No for Share Forward, and then click Apply Selections and Authorize Exchange. Next slide. Once you've completed Exchange data access for each property, you click Share Properties. DOB will need to approve your share request. Once it's done, you will receive a confirmation email within an hour. Please keep in mind that the email address to which the confirmation will go is one of the 3 email addresses that Emily and Thomas mentioned before. It's the owner's representatives, or service provider. If you do not see the email in your inbox, please check the spam or junk folder. Next slide, please. So now you shared all the properties with the city. Please make sure that all the properties listed on the covered buildings list for local law 84 and local law 97 that you are responsible for are shared with the City of New York. You can always go back to the sharing tab and manage, edit your properties and contacts that you share. Make sure you share all the properties once again with the city, because both local law 97 and local law 88 compliance will be reported based on the properties sharing with the city. There will be no reporting template this year and any year going forward. Next slide. All this information and more related to benchmarking will be covered on the benchmarking forum next Wednesday. Please make sure you register and attend. The slides and the presentation will be recorded and distributed for all the attendees. All the tasks, assistance with the creating ESPM account, sharing your property, connecting to utilities, anything related to ESPM task. If you need help, contact the Sustainability Help Center. There are also some trainings and help provided by the ESPM platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Next slide, please. All right, so now we have covered the first 2 prerequisites to getting set up in the Beam platform. Just to recap, Thomas walked us through how to pay filing fees in the DOB Now payment portal. The key there being that you need to input 3 email addresses. Those 3 email addresses that are input in the DOB Now payment portal are the only ones that you will be able to use to access that building in the Beam platform. I see a lot of questions in the chat right now if those are the only people that would be able to access that building in Beam. And I just want to clarify that once you're in Beam with one of those 3 email accounts, there is a ticket, we'll go through this, there is a ticket to add additional contact information to that building. So you just have to get into the Beam platform first. So these 3 email addresses are critical for that first step. And then, thanks to Lydia for walking us through the changes that are happening in the ESPM platform. Obviously, it's critical that this information is shared between ESPM and the Beam platform. This is essentially the basis for Local Law 97 reporting. Both the emissions and the emission limits are calculated in Beam directly from the data that is imported in ESPM. We will get to that when we demo Beam. Next slide, please. All right, so with this, we are ready to, Sydney Abraham from Clearly Energy is going to do a demonstration, an overview of the Beam platform, and then the DOB staff will walk through what, some of the ticketing items, which are the submission reports. All right, thank you, Sydney.
Great, thanks so much, Emily. So I'm going to walk us through an overview of the Beam platform and mostly just how to navigate through it. So we'll start with creating an account and logging into Beam. We'll definitely answer some questions about email address access and how to claim your buildings. and then we'll just walk through generally how to navigate through the platform. So when you are ready to create a Beam account, which will be open starting on this coming Monday, you'll first come here to the login page, and the first thing that you'll need to do, similar to DOB Now, is create an account. So you'll do so by clicking right here under Create My Account, and you'll just be prompted to enter some basic information. So really just email address, your name, and then you'll be prompted to create a password. I know we've mentioned it before, but I will, like Emily said, just sound like a little bit of a broken record here. That email address does need to match one of those 3 DOB Now email addresses. So the owner representative, or service provider. When we're saying it has to match with Beam, this is what we're talking about. So that email address that you're creating the account with needs to match. And like Emily said, once you're in and you've created your account and you've claimed your buildings, then you'll be able to add as many other users as you would like, and they can have whatever email addresses they would like. But it's that initial DOB Now email address that will unlock your account, so to speak. So once you've filled out this information, you'll click Create My Account, and you'll get an email in your inbox within about 5 to 10 minutes after clicking Create My Account. And in that email address, there'll be a link that will just prompt you to follow the instructions there and set up your account. It shouldn't be too much of a setup process. Just a side note, if you don't see that email in about 5 to 10 minutes, please make sure to just check your spam. Sometimes it goes there by accident. So if you're missing that email address, that's always the first place I recommend checking. So once you've gone through all of that, you've created your account and set up your credentials, you'll go back to that same homepage that I just showed you a minute ago, and you'll enter that username and password that you've created, and then you will be good to go to access Beam. So as you log in, this will be the first page that you see, this Welcome to Beam homepage. And as you can see, there are a few different options of different places you can go. I'll start here with add members because I know that's been, again, a frequently asked question here. So you can start here with add members, and it'll open up this page where you can invite different users to join Beam. So you'll do so by clicking Invite a New Member, and similarly, you'll just be asked to provide some very basic information about that person. You can add as many different users as you would like, and whoever you add in this way will be able to see all of the same buildings that you can see with that DOB Now email address. There is another way to add users, and that will allow you a little bit more control over which buildings they see. So if you want to only have them see certain buildings, that'll be the way to do it, and we'll walk through that in a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. But same note here, just allow 5 to 10 minutes for that email to come through, and just if you're inviting somebody else, give them a heads up that that email is coming through, so again, they can check their spam if they're not seeing it. So if I go back here to this homepage now, the other 2 major things that I can do on Beam are view my buildings and visit the help desk. I'm going to start with view my buildings. You can also get there by clicking right here on this inventory button. It'll take you to the same place. And that is right here, this buildings inventory page. So to orient you a little bit here, right now I am seeing 1 individual property record. So I have my fake school here that I'm showing you right now. If you have multiple properties, or you're managing multiple properties for 497, then you'll see them all here in list view. But right now I'm just seeing 1 for testing purposes. I can also scroll through the information that I have here. So I start with just some basic building information that I've collected. And then we start with some information that we've collected from Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So things like the list of all of my property use types, my calculated emissions limit, things like my potential excess emissions, my potential penalty without any interventions. And then again, right, like all this information we've collected from Energy Star Portfolio Manager, basic energy use information, and all of that. I'm scrolling through pretty quickly because there's a lot of data here that you'll be able to play with. So definitely there will be some fun things to dive around with when you get logged into Beam. But another note here is that all of these fields are sortable and filterable. So right now I don't have anything to sort through just because I just have the 1 building. But if you have multiple, you'll be able to search by name or by the bin or by any specific value if you want to pull up an individual record, or you can search by let's say property type, right? If you want to see all of your school buildings, for example. From this page, I can also export this. So if for whatever reason I wanted to save all of this data to Excel or just save it outside of Beam, you can do so by selecting this property right here with this check mark. And then you'll go into Actions and then Export. So pretty simple there. And lastly, the other thing here on this inventory page, if you click this little blue eye right here, right next to the name of the property, you'll see there's a little pop-up that says go to detail page. And this will open up this property's what we call detail view page. So again, right, on that main inventory page, I only had one building, so this isn't super different for me. But if you have a lot of properties, this is where you'll really be able to drill down into the details of this one in particular. There also is a lot more granular detail on this particular page. A lot of it does come from Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but I'll scroll through fairly quickly. But just to give you a sense of the scale of this page, right, there is a lot of data that you can look at here. So you could definitely have some fun with all of that. But this is in regards to specifically just this one property, whereas your inventory is a little bit more of a bird's eye view if you have a lot of properties. Also from this page, this communications tab right here will also be quite important. This is an overview of all of the back and forth inquiries or communication that you have had specifically in regards to this one property with the program to date. So you can see here, I've got a few examples of different inquiries that I've submitted. So, I've submitted my 320 report, a penalty mitigation, extension request, right? So if you are submitting any of these types of inquiries or submissions to the program and you want to double check on the status of them, this is a great place to come and do it, right? So I can see the status of these, and I'll also be able to click on this view ticket option over here if I wanted to see this in a little bit more detail. Speaking of communications and tickets, I'll go back to the home page here for a moment. And the other thing that we'll be able to do from Beam is we'll click into the help desk. So I can get there either by clicking right here or this page here, visit the help desk. Again, it'll take me to the same place. And this will open up your submissions portal. So the first thing that you'll see here before you submit anything is this knowledge base, which really just covers some frequently asked questions and helpful resources for you as you're navigating the process of submitting your 97 report. A lot of good information here. If you have general questions about the program or how to submit, definitely recommend checking out this page or the general program website. You may be able to answer a lot of your questions that way. The other thing that you can do here is file a submission. So we use the words ticket and submission sort of interchangeably. So you can see up top here, this page is titled submissions. And then we have right here this new ticket drop-down window. So if I open up that, then you'll see this is how you can open up and file those submissions. I'll give a quick scroll through so you can see there's a fair number of options here. And with that, I will turn it over to Drew from the DOB team to talk through some of the different submission types.
Great, thank you so much, Sydney. And thank you so much for everyone for attending today. As Sydney mentioned, here you are seeing all of the tickets related to Local Law 97 and Local Law 88 submissions. Just as a quick run through of all the tickets, we just have to note that we will be going into more details with all the tickets at future webinars. So here you can see on the left-hand side, we do have tickets related to CBL disputes. We have a test calculator, tickets related to the extension request, tickets related to the Local Law 97 building emissions limit and RDP attestation, which is, some of you may know this as the simple ticket. We also have a ticket related to Local Law 97 compliance report, which is for Article 321, and this ticket will help you choose between the PECM or if you'd like to follow the 2030 limits. Further down, as number 6, we have a ticket related to deductions and alternatives to calculating the annual building emissions. This is where you'll find all of your information related to cogen, beneficial electrification, any modification to your coefficients. As we go down further, you will have a ticket number 7, which is a block proration ticket. We will get into more details about the block proration ticket at a later webinar, but essentially this ticket relates to the campus submissions. For items number 8 and 9, there are penalty mitigation tickets for Article 310, Article 320 and Article 321. There's also a ticket related to the 320.7 adjustments. Within this ticket, you will find the 3 relevant 320.7 adjustments. Further down, we have tickets related to the Local Law 88 submission for Article 310 and Article 311. Ooh, Sydney, I think thank you. And we also have a ticket related to fee exemption, which I know we've gotten a lot of questions in the chat about that. Also, we have a ticket related to BEAM contact updates, which also this is pertinent to the question about who can get into BEAM and how many email accounts can have access. So that was just a very high-level run-through. As I said, we will be going into more details at a future webinar. But for today, we wanted to start off just high-level reviewing the extension tickets with you. So that is ticket number 3. And Sydney, I thank you so much for sharing your screen and showing us this. As Emily mentioned at the opening of the webinar, anyone can apply for an extension request. The extension ticket relates to Article 320 or Article 321. As you'll see in this ticket, and as most of the tickets are modeled after, we request some information from the user. So we just try our very best to summarize what information is needed. And so you'll see that in the opening of the ticket here. For the first information that we require is the submitter email. As you've heard throughout this presentation, it will be one of the 3 email addresses sent into the DOB Now system, the owner rep, or the service provider. Followed by that, we enter the building address. We also have included some helpful notes to help you navigate the system. So the building address we're looking for in this particular ticket would be the building address found on the DOB Now BIS system. In conjunction with the address, we also ask for the borough block and lot, which is the BBL, and we've also linked to our Local Law 97 CBL, which is our covered buildings list, which you can find all the information you need there as well. We've also included some information to guide you. It's a 10-digit numerical number. After the BBL information is placed, you may now enter your building identification number, BIN. As I mentioned before, there's also the link to the Local Law 97 CBL, which you can find your BIN information. Further down, and this is where it gets specific to this particular ticket, as I mentioned before, this is an extension ticket. And so, Sydney, if you could please select the reason for an extension. The submitter has the ability to pick between the reason why they're submitting a extensions request. It's either a pending Department of Finance covered buildings list challenged, or a registered design professional or qualified retro commissioning agent has been hired to complete the report. So the submitter has the ability to toggle through and pick whichever one is applicable for the application. For this particular scenario, we'll pick on the registered design professional or qualified retro commissioning agent has been hired to complete the report. So once the user clicks on this information, they will be prompted to then verify if it's an RDP, which is a registered design professional, or a qualified retro commissioning agent that's completing the report. And so, Sydney, if you could please, for this particular scenario, click on the registered design professional button, please. And I apologize, it's a bit of lag. The submitter will then be prompted to input the license number of the reviewing RDP. Once that information is inputted, the submitter will then be prompted to upload an attestation by the RDP. Please note the Department of Buildings will be releasing these attestation templates by Monday. It's also important to note for the submitter that the attestation document will need to be signed by the owner and the RDP. After inputting this information and submitting your attestation document, you will be prompted to enter the DOB Now payment confirmation number. As you've heard throughout this webinar, this is the number you will receive after you've made a payment in the DOB Now system for Local Law 97. This number will be found on your invoice. So once you input this number, you may submit a ticket. So this is what ideally the extension ticket looks like for Article 320 and Article 321. We're not going to actually submit this ticket right now, but this is what the ticket looks like. And so I'm going to pass it off now to Emily Hoffman.
All right, thank you, Drew Patty, and thank you, Sydney. I hope that all of you can see that once you are in the BEAM platform, the information on the tickets is very streamlined. And so that's what we want to highlight today is it's very streamlined. It's pulling a lot of data from ESPM that I'll show you in the next ticket. Sydney, if you could please go to the ticket for the Local Law 97 limits. for Article 320? Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through, again, at a high level on what's required in the Article 320 limit and submission ticket. So this is, it was, if you were doing beta testing, we were calling this the simple Article 320 submission because you use a simple filing fee as in our filing fee rule. So to go through this ticket, there's, as Drew mentioned, every ticket has a little description of what the ticket can be used for, kind of high level detail on what information is required. So Sydney, if you scroll down, I'm just going to jump to the inputs of this ticket. Okay, so like every ticket, you're prompted to input your submitter email, the address, the BBL, and bin information for the building that you're submitting this ticket for. That information is required to bring over the data that is on this ticket and tag it with your property. So it's very critical that the BBL and bin in the ticket align with the building that you're filing for. That is what the RDP is attesting to on these tickets, is the information in here. Okay, so just backing up a bit, Sydney showed us the inventory. So that inventory and data for your building populates once the ESPM connection is made. So then you will be able to see, your building's limit as calculated by the ESPM property types. And this is the ticket where you can adjust any of that. This is the ticket you also adjust your gross floor area. Okay, so the first step in this ticket for Article 320 is you select the emissions type for your property. For this example, we're going to select, you have the two options. You have the building code occupancy group that's only available for the first 2 years, or the ESPM property type. For this example, I'll just select the ESPM property type. All right, and then the next question below, you're asked, do you wish to add any local law 97 deductions or alternatives to calculating annual building emissions? This is referring to a separate ticket that Drew mentioned that contains all of the, if you have on or offsite solar, storage, cogen methodology, time of use, campus reporting, that kind of thing. If you want to add any of that stuff, you select yes. For this example, we're going to select no. We're just showing a very simple one building on a lot example. So you select no, and then it will prompt you to just complete the form and attest to the limits and emissions. The next question is asked is, do you wish to modify the gross floor area and property types as entered into Energy Star Portfolio Manager for Local Law 97? So like I was mentioning, the data is carried over from Energy Star Portfolio Manager as it was, listed in there. So you already have your property types broken down, your gross floor area broken down. If that is the same breakdown as you are reporting for 97, you do not have to check this box. If it is not, and you want to have a more granular reporting for 97, you would check that box and fill in the gross floor areas. Sydney, if you can just check it to show people what it looks like. So if you check it and you're amending, you're adjusting the gross floor area, you would go ahead and, essentially re-enter that information here. You would enter your total gross floor area for your building, and then you would go down for each property type and allocate the gross floor area for each property type. The way we have it listed here is the most common property types are listed first. Those are the top 10 most common property types. If you need additional property types, there's a question below that it asks, would you like to add additional property types? If you select yes, the next 50 populate. So for this example though, we're gonna say that the ESPM gross floor area is the same as what we are reporting for 97. So we're gonna go back up, unselect that box, and we're going to move on to the next question. So the next question says, please select this box if the building owner has purchased or intends to purchase offsets to be deducted from the annual building emissions. We're going to have a detailed offsets webinar at the end of March. If you're interested in that, please stay tuned. For this example, we're going to leave that box blank. We're not going to check that box. We know we're already in compliance, so we're going to keep going. The next question, please confirm that the report has been reviewed by the RDP. So here is your, you'll see this is repetitive over each ticket. This is the attestation, section for the ticket. So, in this sense, you would click that you've reviewed the report. You'd enter your license number of the RDP. You would fill out the RDP attestation that DOB is providing. Those would be available on Monday. Like Drew had mentioned, the attestation must be signed by both the owner and the RDP. So that signed attestation is then uploaded here, and you enter the DOB payment confirmation number. Then you submit the ticket. Once you submit the ticket, then you have filed your 97 report for an Article 320 building that is not adding any other deductions or anything like that. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to pass it back over to Drew to walk through additional tickets.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. Sydney, for this particular ticket, we would like to review the Article 320 ticket. If you could please scroll up to that. Thank you so much. As we mentioned, this is the Article 321 ticket. It relates to buildings who have the ability, who are defined under Article 321 as a covered building. In this particular ticket, we will ask the submitter to identify if they're choosing the PECMs or they're using the 2030 carbon emissions limit. As I mentioned before, for all the tickets, we've tried to outline exactly what the ticket pertains to and the necessary information to complete this ticket. We've tried our best here to show that if you do choose the PECM, there's certain requirements that you need, but if you choose the 2030 limits, there are certain other requirements that you'll need as well. So if Sydney, if you could please scroll down. As we mentioned before, it's standard information we're asking for on every single ticket: the submitter email, the building address, the borough block and lot, and the BBL. Once this information has been inputted into this ticket, you will then be prompted to select a compliance pathway. Sydney, if you could please toggle over the compliance pathway so the user can see what we're trying to say. So as I mentioned above, if you can either select the performance-based pathway, which is using the 2030 emissions limit, or you can select the prescriptive pathway for the PECMs. For the performance pathway, the ticket ideally follows the same logic as Emily just went through with a simple Article 320 ticket. Sydney, if you could please click on this particular ticket. You'll see if you're following the 2030 emissions limits, the submitter gets prompted if you'd like to add any deductions or alternative calculations. This, as we've noted before, is the complex ticket. And so you get prompted the question. If you say yes, and Sydney, if you could please click on yes. As Emily mentioned before, you will get notified that you have to complete this form and then go over and complete the another form. So with this particular ticket, like I said, it follows the same exact logic. You get the user gets asked if they want to modify the GFA, and if they do not want to modify it, they can click on it. If Sydney, if you could please click on the GFA question. As Emily noted before, you get these functionalities. You can break up your property type into more granularity. If you unclick that, thanks, Sydney. You then get asked about the offsets question, which Emily noted. We will have a webinar dedicated to offsets at a future date at the end of March. But please, if you go ahead and click the offset question, Sydney, the user will get prompted down to the next question. And then you add in the amount of offsets that you wish to purchase. And then the standard questions are all the same throughout the end of this ticket. The report has to be confirmed by a registered design professional, which is a New York State licensed architect or engineer. We then ask for the license number within this field below. And then the user has to update the, upload the attestation form. As we've noted throughout the meeting, the attestation form will be provided by DOB on Monday. And we require signature from the owner and the RDP as well. In conjunction with that information, with all tickets, we're requesting that the DOB Now payment confirmation number be submitted in the ticket as well. This is the number you will receive once you make a payment fee at the DOB Now portal. And then you would submit this ticket for this particular scenario. But if we go back up and choose, instead of the 2030 limits, we choose the PECMs, it's a little different. So in this particular example here, this is the 321 ticket. The user has now chosen to follow the PCM pathway. The user will get asked to submit, complete, and upload the Excel template that we have on our website. All the links are applicable below for the following 4 PCMs. After that upload has been made, the other PCMs the user will get asked to validate the other PCMs. So it's a quick, simple 3 options. Sydney, if you could just click on one of them for us, that'd be great. The user gets to tell us if they're in compliance, not in compliance, or if the question's not applicable. And this is for the remaining PCMs. If you go further down, same logic will apply. Once the user completes all these fields, they will be prompted to enter. For this particular pathway, we require a qualified retro commissioning agent to attest to this to the PCMs. And so this is the information required for the qualified retro commissioning agent here. Same standard formatting. We require the checkbox, we require the license number, and an attestation upload. Same information is applicable here as well. The DOB will be providing this template, and the owner and the qualified retro commissioning agent will also have to sign off on this attestation. As with all the tickets, a DOB Now payment confirmation number will be needed to enter into the system before submitting the ticket. And so, yeah, this is just basically what an Article 321 ticket would look like. And with that, I pass it back over to Emily.
All right, thank you, Drew Patty. Next, we're going to have Martin Wenu walk us through how to file Local Law 88 submissions using the Local Law 88 tickets. Martin.
Thank you, Emily. Hi, everyone. I'll be working us through the segment of the demonstration, which covers the Local Law 88 BEAM ticket submission, which is ticket 11. So Local Law 88 consists of lighting system upgrades, which is Article 310 for lighting and submitting at Article 311. I'll be taking on ticket 11 for lighting Article 310 first. This ticket applies to covered buildings that are subject to the requirements of Chapter 3 of Title 28 of the NYC Administrative Code and is required to demonstrate compliance with lighting system upgrades. A complete Local Law 88 lighting article, that's Article 310 submission ticket, must include the three pieces of information seen below. Sydney, please can we go to this to the required documentation? Okay, thank you. So first, here's the submitter email. This should be one of the emails associated with the DOB Now payment portal. So I'm gonna reiterate this because it's been said over, not to sound like a broken record. The submitter email should be one of the emails associated with the DOB Now payment portal, such as the building owner's email, the owner's representative's email, as well as the service provider email. So first here is the building address. So the building address, the borough block and lot BBL and bin fields, all of this must match the information in BIS. And there's a lookup function that's available to cross-check whether the bin is included in the Local Law 88 covered buildings lists. Next is the attestation details. The professional attesting to the report must be a registered design professional, licensed master electrician, or licensed special electrician. But for this exercise, the option selected from the drop-down menu is a registered design professional. Sydney, please can you select the registered design professional drop-down? Thank you. So when that's selected, the license number must be entered in the designated field. That's the RDP's license. Then the attestation form must be signed by both the registered design professional and the building owner, and thereafter uploaded. Please be reminded that the Department of Buildings will provide an attestation template for use. As Drew mentioned earlier, this will be available by Monday. And the final step here is to enter the DOB Now payment confirmation number, which is carried over from DOB Now. To reiterate here, if the building is filing a Local Law 97 report, a separate Local Law 88 $115 filing fee is not required. And finally, for this ticket, you'll have to click Submit to complete the process. And next is ticket 12. Sydney, please can we go into ticket 12? That's for local law 88 submitting Article 311. Thank you. Okay. In this concluding segment for local law 88 filing, I'll be working us through local law 88's Article 311 requirements which pertains to submitting. The ticket applies to covered buildings that are subject to provisions of Chapter 3 of Title 38 of the New York City Administrative Code and is required to demonstrate compliance with installation of electrical submitters in covered tenant spaces. A complete local law 88 Article 311 submission ticket must include the following 5 key pieces of information seen below. Please, can you scroll down to the required submission fields from the submitter email? So it's quite similar to ticket 11. That's for Article 310. The submitter email as well must be consistent with one of the emails associated with the DOB Now payment portal, such as the building owner's email, the owner representative email, as well as the service provider email. And the BBL and bin fields, these fields as well must match the information in Bs. A lookup function is also available to cross-check whether the bin is included in the local law 88 covered buildings list. This ticket has an additional question regarding indication of any covered tenant spaces within the covered building. But for this exercise, we'll be choosing yes from the drop-down menu. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sydney. So this menu prompts population of 2 admission fields for document upload. The first is a list of all covered tenant spaces in such covered building, while the second is a sample monthly statement in accordance with section 28-311.4 of the Administrative Code. Then next is the attestation details. The professional attesting to the report must be a registered design professional, licensed master electrician, or licensed special electrician. But for this exercise, the option selected from the drop-down menu is a registered design professional. Okay. The license number must be entered in the designated field, like the rest of the tickets we have gone through. The attestation form also must be signed by both the registered design professional and the building owner and uploaded thereafter. Please be reminded that the Department of Buildings will be providing an attestation template for use. However, if there are no covered tenant spaces in the covered building, an attestation is still required to be submitted. So we could go back. We can go back to check no there. If in the drop-down menu that there are no tenant spaces, so we still have the field for the attestation, which is still required to be submitted. The final steps here is to provide the DOB Now payment confirmation number, which is carried over from DOB Now. And also, as I mentioned earlier, if the building is filing a local law 97 report, a separate local law $815 filing fee is not required. And then finally, we click submit ticket to complete the process. And I'm gonna be adding a note. Please, can we go to ticket 14? Drew had touched upon that earlier. So ticket 14. So ticket 14, this scenario is if you have different qualified professionals filing tickets 11 and ticket 12. Ticket 12 must be created in BEAM to update a point of contact ticket by the submitter earlier mentioned, and all building and contact information for the property reporting for local law 88, and the name of the qualified professionals will be updated accordingly. And thank you all, and I'll pass it back to Emily.
All right, thank you, Martin. And I just want to reiterate that this last ticket that Martin was describing is, we're just monitoring the questions right now, and we're getting, dozens and dozens and dozens of questions about how do I add additional contacts and everything. So Sydney had touched on it, Martin had touched on it. I'm just going to touch on it again that, you know, the 3 email addresses that go into DOB Now, that gives you access to that particular building you are paying for in Beam. Only those 3 email addresses can be used to access that building in Beam. Once you're in Beam and you want to add additional contact information, you can do that by going to this ticket and adding the additional contact information there. So, you know, just remember that there is the ability to, once you're in, the key point is getting into the system first. Once you're in, you can add additional contact and, you know, by going that route. Okay, we're going to just run through a couple of more tickets at a high level. I think this will give an overview for everybody to determine, you know, which of the future presentations you'd like to attend to get a really deep dive in. But we're just going to touch on a few more of the Local Law 97 submission tickets that, just to show you high level what type of information is required. You can start preparing for your reports now, even if you're not ready to click the submit button yet. Let's go down to the penalty mitigation ticket. We can start off with the 320 penalty mitigation ticket. Okay, so this is ticket number 8. This ticket is used for 2 reasons. One, if a building has an unexpected or unforeseen event. Again, this, you know, we had touched on this before. This is only for like hurricane, fire, flood, very minimal reasons why you would select that. Or main reason someone would select this is you're pursuing a good faith effort. So if you're doing good faith effort, you look for this penalty mitigation ticket. Scroll down, Sydney, please. You know, again, like all of the way all of our tickets are structured, there's this overview on what's required in this ticket. You have to, you know, identify the building, the BBL, the bin, the address, and then where Sydney's showing right now, please select the mitigating factor type. For this example, we're going to choose the good faith efforts mitigating factor type. So you see once you select the good faith efforts, 3 questions will pop up. These are the prerequisite requirements for good faith efforts, and these are just confirmations. You're confirming under the first checkbox that you have submitted your annual Local Law 97 report. So that is the ticket that I showed earlier, either the simple report or you're adding deductions to that report. That is your annual emissions report. So you have to submit that first. That's a prerequisite. You check that box. The next question is confirm that your annual benchmarking report was submitted pursuant to 84. So, you know, we touched on this a little bit, but once you do your share request from ESPM, that data comes into Beam, you've met that benchmarking requirement. We may get back to you with some data quality checks, but you have submitted your 84 report once you have shared with us. Again, for more details on the 84, go to the benchmarking forum next Wednesday. So that's a requirement, you check that box. And then you also have to confirm that you have complied with Local Law 88. All your upgrades have been made to your lighting and submetering. And submitted those tickets that Martin just covered. So you select that. And then you get down to this box below where you select your type of good faith effort. So we have a list below. This aligns with what's in the rule. You're either submitting a decarb plan, you're demonstrating that work is underway, you're waiting on a utility for more power, you've demonstrated previous compliance, this wouldn't be available for this year, or your building is a critical facility. For this example, let's submit a decarb plan. So we select that option. And once you select that option, you're essentially just uploading your decarb plan and your supporting documentation. So you would choose your file, you would upload your decarb plan, and then you would, you know, complete the ticket by, you know, doing the standard attestation. You're confirming you're an RDP, you're confirming you've reviewed, you enter your license number, you have your attestation signed by the RDP and the owner, and you upload that. Sydney, if we could go change the decarb plan, sorry, back up there, to another option. if we go to selecting the mitigating factor type, let's select that we're demonstrating that work is underway. So we're working on our building, we're trying to get into compliance, we're doing that work right now, and we want to use that as our good faith effort pathway. If we select that, again, you're just uploading your supporting documentation with all of these requirements. These requirements are taken from the rule, they're pasted here, and this is what would have to be uploaded as supporting documentation. So, as you select each one of these good faith effort selections, you'll see that we're requiring this supporting documentation. Once this is submitted, it goes with your building, and then the DOB audit team will review these applications. If there's any questions, we'll respond and comment on it, and we'll do all of that back and forth through the Beam platform. Okay, thank you, Sydney. Let's just look quickly at the Article 321 penalty mitigation. And it's similar to the Article 320 penalty mitigation. We do have a few different options here. So like the Article 320 penalty mitigation, you have the unexpected or unforeseeable event. But for Article 321, you have the eligible energy conservation project, or you're going for a mediated resolution. So if we scroll down, Sydney, I'm going to skip the high level part of this ticket. You have the submitter email address, the building information, and then you go down here and select your mitigating factor type. So let's select the eligible energy conservation project, EECP. Once you select that, you'll be prompted as to what documentation is required. So for this particular pathway, you're required to provide a commitment letter from your state or local agency that you're getting government assistance, and an EECP form and proxy documentation. This EECP form is created by HPD. We have a link here, and the required proxy documentation is listed in that form itself. So you would upload that supporting documentation and then enter your payment confirmation number here and submit your ticket. That will come to the DOB team. We'll review that information and communicate with the building owner and service provider as needed. If we select, Sydney, instead of the EECP, we select the mediated resolution. And then again, here it describes the documentation that's required to be uploaded for your mediated resolution. And so that is what the retro commissioning agent would have to provide, or the registered design professional. So all of that information would be uploaded, and you enter your DOB payment confirmation number, and that's sent over to DOB. All right. I guess since we're going through most of the tickets and we still have some time, let's touch on the deductions ticket, the Article 320 deductions ticket. Okay, so this ticket is to be used for Article 320 or Article 321 if you're going the 2030 emissions pathway. So this ticket essentially it works with the calculations in Beam. So all of the information that's input into this ticket, that's either a deduction, an alternative coefficient, or an alternative methodology. The values that are submitted in this ticket are then reflected in your annual emissions in your building inventory that Sydney showed earlier. So we can just go high level down through this ticket. DOB is creating a template that will work in tandem with this ticket. So it will be, pretty self-explanatory with the template. We will get into the details of this when we do the part 2 of the Article 320 webinar in a few weeks. We'll put that schedule up at the end of the presentation. Okay, so basically this ticket's outlined, and it's just asking questions: what type of deduction or alternative methodology or you know, any other approach that you're using to adjust your annual emissions from your typical annual fuel consumption. So the first question, would you like to add a solar deduction? If you select yes, you'll be prompted to select another question. Oh, sorry, you'll be prompted to enter the electric usage you're claiming as the host deduction, or the annual electric usage you're claiming as the off-taker deduction. And again, I mentioned that we'll have a template that is provided and will have to be uploaded, filled out and uploaded with this ticket. But you'll see under each one of the deductions, you're also required to provide supporting documentation. So here you would choose your file, you would upload your supporting documentation. We've listed what's required if you're claiming the host solar deduction. We've listed what's required if you're doing the off-taker solar deduction. And so that same format is carried throughout this ticket. Sydney, if we go down to the next question, would you like to add a storage deduction? Here, if you select yes, then you are prompted, is the storage project on-site or off-site? You can, let's say it's on-site storage. Then you're prompted to enter the storage deduction that you're claiming in tons of carbon. Again, we have a calculator, a template calculator that will provide that number based on your inputs. The key here is that the value entered should be negative. This is a deduction that's being claimed. So, you know, we've added that text there to, you know, claim your deduction, make sure it's a negative amount of tons of carbon. You upload your supporting documentation for your storage project as required. We'll build out what those details are. Okay, next, the next question, would you like to add a deduction for fuel cells that commenced operation prior to January 19th, 2023? As listed in our rule, if you select yes, you're prompted here to enter that fuel cell deduction you're claiming, again, in tons of carbon. Our worksheet will have that value for you after you've, you know, entered your inputs there. Okay, we'll keep going down. The next question, would you like to add a beneficial electrification deduction? If you select yes, then you're prompted to answer another question, whether you are determining the based on deemed or metered approach or both. So let's select deemed approach for this example. So once we select the deemed approach, you'll be prompted to enter the total beneficial electrification deduction that you're claiming in tons of carbon. Again, all the worksheet has all the back-end calculations that we will provide, and will clearly, you know, provide the value that would be entered here. We are asking a question, do you want to bank these emission savings for your future beneficial electrification use? We're going to say yes, because who wouldn't want to bank these? And BEAM will be able to store this information to be used for future years of reporting. Again, you have to upload the supporting documentation required for beneficial electrification. If we keep going down for time of use or campus style electric system, here you're prompted whether you're going this route. If you select yes, please select the type of approach. Let's say we're doing a campus style electric system. All right, so, you know, we're modified there, and then we're working with the campuses. We're going to have a separate approach for the campuses that we're not getting into on this particular webinar, but we are going to talk about those at the later webinar, specifically for campuses where you're reporting multiple buildings. The next question, would you like to apply for an alternative methodology for qualified generation facility? This is our alternative cogen methodology. If you say yes, you're entering your annual gas consumption of that facility. So that's a negative value that you're entering. Next field, you're entering the annual electric output of that generation facility. That's a positive value. And then you're entering the annual reclaimed heat output of that generation facility in kBTUs. So that value should be positive. After you've input those values, again, they come from the worksheet that we are providing that will be available for everybody to use. You know, you submit that supporting documentation. And then lastly, on this form, if you're reporting any biofuels or alternative fuels, you say yes, you enter the alternative coefficient there. We'll have guidance on the, on where you're inputting that biofuel amount in ESPM. And then your coefficient is reallocated here in this field. All of that information, any supporting documentation there is available. I should note that we have a biofuels guidance. If you haven't already seen it, it's newly up on our website. Okay, so then once you fill out this information, you can confirm that you've reviewed this information, you do your attestation, you click submit. All of these values in this ticket will then update your emissions in your portfolio, and you'll see it as a field as your complex emissions for that building. So again, we're not going to get into that today, but we will go through those examples in detail at a future webinar. So that is, pretty much an overview of the ticketing system, how BEAM works, how you're submitting Local Law 97 reports and 88 reports. And, I think as you can see, we've tried to, streamline all of this really well. All of the ticketing information is tied to that particular building where you're inputting that identification number at the beginning of the ticket. Every ticket that you submit, you will see that in your, ticketing history associated with that particular building. Let's see, I know we have quite a few questions that have come through the chat, so I think we're going to tackle some of those on this call. Let's see. I'm going to read a couple of these out loud now. Okay. So what do delayed compliance buildings have to do this year? Just a reminder for everybody, a delayed compliance building is one that's not required to report in 2025. They're either required to report first in 2027 or first in 2036. So if the 97 CBL on our website indicates that this building is a delayed compliance building, you don't have to do anything for Local Law 97 this year. You're not required to report until your reporting year. But what you do have to note is that you are required to, if you're subject to benchmarking or Local Law 88, you are required to report benchmarking in 88. So you still may have to carry out, if you're subject to benchmarking and you're in a delayed compliance, you still will have to carry out the steps that Lydia went through to share your ESPM information with us. If the building's subject to Local Law 88, you would have to go through the DOB Now payment portal for Local Law 88, pay that filing fee since you're not filing Local Law 97 this year, and then go and create a BEAM account, go into the BEAM system and submit your 88 compliance tickets. Another question, are edits to BEAM entries allowed before final submission? Yes, a building can submit multiple tickets to update your data. We'll have a flag in there related to a building's compliance status, and that compliance status will be assessed at the reporting deadline. Another question, we've been getting a lot of questions around gross floor area. So the question generally is, what is the expectation for gross floor area? We have recently updated our Article 320 guide that has the latest guidance on what is required for gross floor area. It states that the gross floor area is at the RDP's discretion. So determining the gross floor area requires some sort of supporting documentation, but that is at the RDP's discretion. Simply providing the Department of Finance gross square footage is not, is generally not allowed. But it's really up to the RDP on what is required, and that may change depending on, at the RDP's discretion, depending on how granular the property type areas are for a particular building. So for example, if there's a multifamily building that has no other spaces besides multifamily use, there's no commercial spaces, there's no hardly, it's just multifamily, that would be a different type of supporting documentation that an RDP would be, comfortable with using than say it was, a multi-use building where there's hotel and multifamily and restaurant and office and maybe data center. So that's what we mean by it's at the RDP's discretion. We've provided some examples in the documentation. Based on everything that we're hearing from the public, we're trying to be responsive and, just with all the questions that we get, just kind of lay out as clearly as possible, what is allowed. Okay, another question that I know we've gotten many, I saw this throughout the chat. What do I do if I have different service providers for Local Law 97 and Local Law 88? We touched on this a bunch of times, but this is key. This is critical to accessing the BEAM system. So we'll repeat again. Only the 3 email addresses that are entered in DOB Now in the payment portal can be used to access BEAM. So one of those 3 email addresses has to be used to create the BEAM account. Once you're in the BEAM account, you can add additional service providers to that BEAM account. Mountain went through the ticket number 14 that talks about adding additional service providers. So once you're in the system, you would go that route. Sydney also talked about adding additional service providers as well. Another question, can Article 321 buildings elect to file as a Article 320 building and just comply with the annual filings and emission limit? No, that is not allowed. Article 321 buildings will continue to demonstrate performance through 88 reports. So once you're subject, they're subject to Local Law 84 benchmarking and would be required to file with us annually that annual, energy disclosure. But they're not required to provide Article 320 Local Law 97 reports. An Article 321 building, if they do not want to comply with the prescriptive energy conservation measures, can demonstrate compliance by achieving the Article 320-2030 limits this year or with calendar year 2024 data by reporting this year. Another question, what buildings are fee exempt? Thomas went through this during his presentation. There is an option to select fee exempt status. The options under the fee exempt status are not-for-profit corporations owned and operated for educational, charitable, or religious purposes, and government-owned property. We have to be clear that government-owned property does not include private entities leasing space in government-owned property. That is not fee exempt if it's a private entity. Also, I just want to point out that even if you are fee exempt, you still have to complete the Local Law 97 payment portal. At the end, you will be prompted to submit that information. That's critical because we need those 3 email addresses to carry over into BEAM to get you access into that system for those buildings. I should also note that once you're in BEAM and you are a fee exempt building, you must click on the, I believe it's the number 13 ticket, where you have to demonstrate, you have to upload supporting documentation for your fee exempt status. So that is a requirement if you select fee exempt. Another question, who can submit Local Law 97 reports in BEAM? For Article 320, a registered design professional is required to prepare the report. For Article 321, a qualified retro commissioning agent is allowed to submit that report. So, and we went through on each ticket, right? You see that the RDP has to confirm that the information on the ticket is accurate. They have to enter their license number. If it's a retro commissioning agent, they have to enter their license or registration number depending on what entity they are registered with. And then there has to be they have to fill out the attestation form. It has to be signed by both the owner and the RDP, or both the owner and the RCXA agent. RCX agent. That information has to be uploaded. So the RDP or the RCX agent is taking responsibility for the information submitted on that ticket. If there is, if we've gotten the question, if someone wants, is there someone else that can upload that information for that person? That's, up to you, but the RDP is the one that is responsible for the information on that ticket. Another question, is a service provider required to file the 97 and 88 report? I think this one was covered, but I'll just go into a little bit more detail. There's some more nuances there. For Local Law 97, a registered design professional is required for Article 320 buildings, and also for the Article 321 buildings that are demonstrating compliance with the 2030 limit. So a qualified retro commissioning agent cannot submit those types of reports, only a registered design professional. And I saw this question a couple times in the chat. We use this term a lot, but I think it might be worth noting that a registered design professional is a licensed architect or engineer, and they must be licensed in the state of New York. That is defined in our admin code, but worth repeating. A retro commissioning agent, the requirements are outlined in Rule 103-17, I believe. That's the rule for Article 321. So check the definition of qualified retro commissioning agent if you aren't sure. There's quite a few different organizations that are recognized under that, to be qualified there. So that's the requirement for retro commissioning agent. The retro commissioning agent can only sign off on, can only attest to the Article 321 buildings that are demonstrating compliance with the PECMs, or the prescriptive energy conservation measures. And then for Local Law 88, it's a different set of qualified individuals that can submit that report. It can either be a registered design professional, and again, that's licensed in the state of New York, or a licensed master electrician or a licensed special electrician. And both of those qualified individuals must be licensed in New York City with Department of Buildings. Another question, what do you do if your building doesn't match what is on the CBL, or the covered buildings list? So the answer here is you would submit a CBL dispute. Those previously have been done through our GHG emissions email account. We have a lot of information on this, on what, the different types of covered building list disputes. That's all on our website. So check out our website for information on what type of documentation you would need to, if you're disputing, how to validate your dispute. You can also look at the covered buildings list matrix that was updated in the last few months, I believe, to provide more identifying information on what type of documentation you need for your building to demonstrate whether you're in one compliance bucket or another. So check those out if you think that you are listed incorrectly on the covered buildings list. There's also a ticket that we did not cover today that you would submit within BEAM to cover your CBL dispute. We will be having a future topic, dedicated to covering, this particular ticket and, all of the varieties of CBL disputes there. Great, and I'm just scrolling down to see the additional questions we have. I think I answered most of those. Let's see, okay. All right. Another question, I think I covered this one already. Are edits to beam entries allowed before the final submission. We covered that. Yes, they can be allowed. You can submit a ticket to overwrite the previous submission. You can, contact DOB and let us, in the ticket, you can provide information on that. And then what's the expectation for source of GFA for attestation? I also covered that as well, that is at the RDP's discretion. I think you might have noticed in the Article 320 and Article 321 2030 emission limits that we are not requiring anybody to upload that supporting documentation to validate the GFA. So that is not a requirement in your submission process. Just note that during the DOB review process, when we go through the audit process, that is something that DOB may request if there's concern that the GFA is, if there's a flag on the GFA for whatever reason. One of the questions again is, what if there are different service providers for local law 97 reporting and local law 88 reporting for the same building? What does that mean for payment and submission? So basically what has to happen is there has to be some coordination between the service providers. So like we mentioned before, you have to, the step one is going into DOB Now, and you're paying for that initial payment fee. So if you're filing for both 97 and 88 this year, you're paying for the local law 97 payment fee. I should also add that if you're filing an extension request, that is once you file that extension request and you've paid the $60 extension fee, the 3 email addresses associated with that payment will get you access into the Beam platform. So, to note that, all of you can start doing that starting Monday, filing for extensions if you so choose, and getting into the Beam platform. Again, once you're in the Beam platform, you have the option to go to that ticket 14, add your 88 service provider, add additional content. It doesn't just have to be the 88 service provider. It can be an additional owner's rep. It could be an additional owner, who any other users that you want access to that particular building is who you would add in that ticket. Again, for local law 88, for buildings that have to file local law 88, they and you're filing 97 this year, there's no payment required for 88. So in any of those tickets, as Martin covered, when you're entering your DOB payment confirmation code, you're entering that local law 97 payment confirmation number. So that's another source, another point of communication that should happen, with the owner for those particular properties. Okay, reading down our question list again. Yes, just covering again, I know I touched on this in the beginning, the deadline for filing an extension. The deadline for filing an extension is June 30th. So the portal opens next week. You can start paying. DOB Now payment portal is open now. You can go start paying your filing fees now. You start connecting your ESPM share request now. Beam will open on Monday. You can file for your extension starting Monday, and you have all the way until the end of that grace period, which is June 30th. Once you submit that extension request, you will have until August 29th to submit your final report. Okay, I'm gonna pass it back. I see Chris's screen is back on. Great. Let's go to the next slide, Chris. I know we're coming up right at time here. I'm sure there's still a lot of questions we haven't answered, but we will have a record of all this stuff and we'll consolidate and provide an FAQ. Just want to go over the, this is our webinar schedule, our tentative webinar schedule. you know, sorry, this one doesn't have the benchmarking forum date. Starting next Wednesday, March 5th, the benchmarking forum is going to be hosted. So that's going to be New York City Department of Buildings, Con Edison, National Grid, Sustainability, CUNY Sustainability Help Center. There are partners in helping you know, answer a lot of questions related to benchmarking. Lydia talked about them, and they're going to be going over the nitty-gritty details of how to share your system. If you've never benchmarked before and you're subject to 97, they're going to walk through how to set up that initial ESPM account. Okay, and then we go through, we're going to be hosting these 2-hour webinars throughout the month of March. Starting next Friday, March 7th, we are going to go over Article 321, just the general compliance report. Drew Patty went through that ticket today, but we're going to go through additional nuances in that ticket. And we're also going to go through additional nuances in the payment DOB Now filing fee portal. On March 11th, that's the following Tuesday, we're going to cover a lot of Article 320 tickets. We're going to talk about the building emission limit and RDP attestation ticket. We're going to go over the deductions and alternatives ticket that I had gone through, and we'll walk through with our template that, you know, DOB has created and filling out that. And we're also going to go over the block proration ticket. This is related to campus reporting. So if you're interested in campus reporting, March 11th is the date that you want to mark on your calendar. Then we get to March 14th, the following week. We're going to cover Article 321. This is our part 2 of Article 321. That's going to be penalty mitigation. And then we're also going to cover CBL disputes. Then later that week, on March 18th, we're going to talk about Article 320 penalty mitigation and good faith efforts reporting. We're going to go into details on, you know, what that supporting documentation would look like. Then on March 20th, we're going to cover lighting and submetering. The following week, we're going to cover the Article 320.7 adjustments process. We did not cover that ticket today. That's for financial hardship and external constraints. We will also have an in-depth webinar on offsets. This will be hosted by Urban Green Council. We will have a date on that. Look for that at the end of March if you're interested in the offsets program. And also we will be, you know, this is, like I said, this is a massive undertaking, both for, you know, the industry. This is a brand new law, and this is our first year getting there. So we want to hear from you. Like I said, we have a team dedicated to this. We are going to be agile, and especially in responding to questions. We're going to be going through all the questions that were in the chat and making sure that our future webinars are covering the questions that you are asking. We're going to be providing, you know, detailed guidance on the knowledge base of BEAM so that it's easy to look up, you know, the commonly asked questions there, so that, you know, it alleviates us, you know, responding to individual questions, and it, you know, provides more clarity on the process for everybody. So just look forward for this. If there's, you know, additional information, please let us know. We're, you know, we want to work with the industry. We want to make this right. We want to decarbonize the city's building stock. That is the goal here. Next slide, please. And this concludes our presentation. We do have a new email address that we wanted to highlight. We still have the GHG emissions email address. We like that for specific technical questions, but related to the BEAM platform, the ticketing process, please contact this email address. It's beam_localaw97@buildings.nyc.gov. These emails will be, they're also connected to the BEAM account, and they can, you know, we can tag the, you know, the properties that are asking these emails and sending these emails to that particular building. So it's also a way to streamline our process and communication tools as well. Thank you all for attending. This was, you know, hopefully you all can go and start reporting.
Wow, thank you, Emily. What a great presentation. And thank you to all our speakers. We will share the video recording with everyone within the next few days and publish it on ASHRAE and the DOB websites. So stay tuned. We are also sharing a presentation evaluation link in the chat right now. So please take a minute to fill it out and provide your feedback. And we will leave the webinar active for another 1 or 2 minutes so that you can click or save the links and all the information, the contact email addresses, and you can still ask any last minute questions. Otherwise, please use the email address that's shown on the screen. And I believe that's all for today. Again, big thank you to the ASHRAE and DOB teams and everyone else involved in organizing these webinars. Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you on Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. for our next session. Have a wonderful weekend and see you next week.